Ah, it hurts.
What's wrong? Hold on.
I can't breathe.
I'm here. Lean on me.
People in Millhaven called him Bear, not because anyone had formally given him the name, but because that was the only word that came close to describing what walked down from the Appalachian Ridge every few weeks to collect supplies. Edwin Callow stood 6'8" and bare feet, weighed somewhere around 340 pounds of muscle and mountain living, and wore a beard so thick that birds had reportedly considered nesting in it. He was not a man you forgot after seeing once. He was, in every measurable sense, enormous. But size, as Edwin knew better than anyone, was the loneliest kind of distinction a person could carry. He had lived alone on that mountain for 11 years. Not out of bitterness, not out of misanthropy, but because the world below had a way of making him feel like a spectacle rather than a person. Children pointed. Women whispered. Men either challenged him or avoided him entirely, as if his size were a threat they hadn't yet decided how to classify. So Edwin retreated, season after season, to his hand-built cabin nestled between two ridges where the creek ran cold and clear, and nobody cared how large his shadow fell. He chopped his own wood. He grew his own food. He repaired his own roof. He talked to a three-legged dog named Clover and considered that sufficient conversation for any given week. It was a Tuesday in late October when everything changed. And it changed because of a woman named Sarah Aldridge in a broken-down pickup truck sitting crooked on the mountain road, its front left tire swallowed by a ditch that had been carved by last week's rain. Edwin heard the truck before he saw it, heard the spinning tires and the frustrated engine grinding against mud, and he came through the tree, line with his axe over his shoulder like something out of a story people tell children to explain why they shouldn't wander into forests. Sarah saw him first. She stepped out of the truck, shielded her eyes against the afternoon light, and looked at him the way people rarely looked at Edwin Callow. Not with fear, not with mockery, but with the stunned, wide-eyed wonder of someone witnessing something genuinely magnificent. She was small, not frail but compact, the kind of woman who seemed to take up exactly the right amount of space in the world, no more, no less. She wore muddy work boots, a flannel shirt rolled to the elbows, and she had the look of someone who had been having a very long day and had decided somewhere around noon to simply refuse to let the day win. She looked at Edwin for a long moment, then looked at her truck, then back at Edwin, and she said, completely without malice, without cruelty, with nothing but pure and astonished observation, "You're bigger than my house." Edwin stopped walking. He had heard variations of this his entire life. He had heard it as a joke, as an insult, as a pickup line that wasn't one, as a gasp, as a warning. He had developed over decades a shell so thick around those words that they rarely reached anything real inside him anymore. But something about the way she said it, matter-of-fact, almost reverent, like she was noting a sunrise or a particularly impressive oak tree, something about it went straight through every layer he had built. He didn't get angry. He didn't laugh it off. He just stood there on that mountain road with his axe and his beard and his enormous hands, and for a reason he could not immediately explain, his eyes filled with tears, not from pain, not from shame, from something far more complicated and far more dangerous than either of those things. From the terrible, sudden recognition of being seen. Sarah Aldridge watched this mountain of a man cry on a Tuesday afternoon, and instead of stepping back, she stepped forward, and she said the second thing she would ever say to him. "You want to help me get my truck out of this ditch, or are we just going to stand here feeling things?" Edwin got the truck out of the ditch in about 4 minutes. He didn't use a jack. He didn't use a rope. He put his hands under the frame, planted his feet in the mud, and lifted the way a man lifts who has been building real strength for 11 years through real labor, rather than through anything performed or pretended. Sarah sat behind the wheel and steered, and when all 4 tires found solid ground again, she climbed out and looked at him like he had just done something quietly miraculous. He wiped his eyes with the back of his wrist, embarrassed now, the mountain air cold against his face. "Thank you," she said simply. And then, because she was Sarah, she added, "You want coffee? I have a thermos. I always have a thermos. I've been in the mountains long enough to know that thermoses are not optional." They sat on the tailgate of her truck and drank coffee while the October light turned everything around them the color of old copper. She was a wildlife biologist, she told him. She'd been tracking black bear populations through this part of the Appalachians for 3 years. She knew these ridges almost as well as he did, though from a different kind of knowing. His was intimate and domestic, the knowledge of someone who lived there, and hers was observational, the knowledge of someone who watched. She asked him why he lived on the mountain. He told her the truth, which surprised him, because the truth was not something he distributed freely. He told her about the pointing and the whispering, about the challenges from men who needed to prove something, about the way size could make you invisible as a person even while making you impossible to miss as a body. She listened without interrupting, which was rarer than people realized. When he finished, she looked out at the ridgeline and said, "You know what black bears do when they feel exposed? They go higher. They always go higher. It's not weakness. It's self-preservation." "There's a difference." He looked at her. She was not looking at him, still looking at the mountains, but there was something deliberate in her words, something precise, like she was a woman who understood the difference between a statement and a gift and had just given him the latter. Edwin Callow, who had not cried twice in one day since he was 8 years old and had lost his mother to a winter that came in too hard and too fast, felt his eyes burn for the second time in an hour. They talked until the light was gone. She had a camp set up 10 miles north, and she should have left an hour before she did, but neither of them pointed this out. When she finally climbed back into the truck, she rolled down the window and looked at him standing there in the last gray edge of dusk, enormous still, a feature of the landscape by now, and she said, "Same road, 2 weeks from Tuesday. I'll be coming back through." It wasn't a question. It wasn't quite a promise. It was something offered carefully, like you'd offer your hand to an animal that had been hurt before and needed to make the choice for itself. Edwin walked back up the mountain in the dark and sat with Clover by the fire for a long time, without doing anything. He didn't read. He didn't whittle. He just sat and let the evening happen around him, the way men sit when something has shifted inside them that they don't have the words for yet but know is real. The mountain didn't ask him to explain it. The fire didn't require anything of him. Clover put her 3-legged weight against his shin and sighed the deep sigh of a dog who knows her person is okay but different, and that different might just be good this time. 2 weeks from Tuesday, Edwin was on the mountain road at noon. He told himself it was because he had wood to haul from the lower ridge. He was lying, and he knew it. And Clover knew it. And honestly, the mountain probably knew it too. Sarah's truck came around the bend at 12:47, and when she saw him standing there, she stopped, leaned out the window and said, "I brought a bigger thermos." And Edwin Callow, the man the valley had forgotten, the bear of Millhaven Mountain, smiled for the first time in longer than he could honestly remember. And this time, the tears that came were a completely different kind.